scope? What do we achieve when we do the project scope management? What are the inputs? What is the information that I need before I start doing scope management, right? How do we do it? Is there a specific tool or a specific technique to do the project scope management? And why do we do a scope management? What outputs do we achieve after doing it? So these are the questions that screws the brain of everybody. So I will make that a little easier for you, and I hope that you enjoy the lecture. We know that project management consists of 5 phases. What are these phases? These are initiating, planning, monitoring and performing. It should come before, and then monitoring and controlling, and then closing. So project management consists of these 5 phases. We also know that project management involves management of 10 areas. When we manage a project, there are basically 10 areas that we manage, which are schedule management, cost management, procurement management, risk management, quality management. So when we manage all of these areas, it's then that we actually say that our project is managed. So this is one of the area that we are going to deal with. When we manage each areas, there are a few processes. If I have to manage a scope as per the PMBOK, only if we complete 6 processes, we can say that the scope management is complete. So what are these processes? We implement these phases in every area management. So if we are doing scope management, we are going through all of these phases, or at least some of these phases, right? If we are planning scope management, what area is this? It's planning area. Okay, so this is planning. Collecting requirement is also planning. Defining scope is also planning, because we are not doing any work, we are just planning, like we are just defining how to do that. Creating WBS is also planning, because we will use the WBS to perform the work. So it's again planning. Validating scope is basically monitoring and controlling. Like if the scope is done, the sponsor or the customer needs to validate it. So this will be under monitoring and controlling. And again, controlling will be under monitoring and controlling. So you might have a question like, why are we not including initiating, performing or closing phase here? It's pretty clear, because we already assume that the initiating phase is complete and we are in the planning and monitoring and controlling. If you have any questions, just please let me know in the comments down below, and I would elaborate it further to make you understand. Each step of area management consists of inputs, tools and techniques, and outputs. Say for instance, we are planning scope management. How do we plan it? We need some inputs, right, on the basis of which we can do the planning. Then we also need some tools and technique, like what will be our way of doing it. Do we need a computer software? Do we need some expert advice? Do we need to do some data analysis and whatever? So these will come under tools and techniques. The last one is output. So output is what product or what would be the deliverable that we will get after each step. Otherwise there is no point in doing step. Like, why will I plan scope management if there is no output, right? So we need some output. That's why we are doing this step. Every step has input, tools and techniques, and out. I will now show you a screenshot of PMBOK that explains what are the inputs and what are the outputs and what are the tools and techniques of each of these steps, so that it's much more clear to you. And then later on we can discuss what each input or tools and techniques or outputs mean. Project scope management consists of 6 steps, and each step has 3 categories. Project scope is a list of all the tasks or all the work that needs to be done so that we achieve the deliverables. It also specifies and explicitly states the tasks that the project team is not supposed to do during the project.
You can see inputs, tools, and techniques and outputs in all of the three steps, right? I will first discuss all the inputs that are required for doing the scope management. First, let's see this diagram. I have taken this diagram from PMBOK, and you can see that for planning scope management, we need project charter, project management plan, enterprise and environmental factors, organizational process assets. Then for collecting requirements, we again have project charter, management plan, project documents, business documents, agreements. So you can refer to this diagram to understand what are the requirements. What is project charter? Project charter is a formal document that is signed by the client. It provides confirmation to move forward in a project. Without the project charter, we cannot assume that we have received a green light from the stakeholder, and it's an absolute necessity. It also mentions project objective, high level requirements, and assumptions and constraints. Next is the project management plan. Now, project management plan consists of quality management plan, product life cycle plan, development plan, risk management plan, like a management plan for all the areas, all the knowledge areas, or all the project areas. Next is enterprise environment factors. These are factors that can influence the scope management of the project. Second is the infrastructure. The last one is organizational process assets. Process assets are something that has technical value or has a knowledge value. Basically, the lesson learned documents that we have prepared from previous projects, or these are templates. Say that we have to prepare a report daily, so we already have that template created. So these are the organizational process assets that each organization has. Next is project documents. Any of the document can be the input, such as assumption log or lesson learned or the stakeholder register. Next is business documents. Before the project charter is created, so we know that project charter is a document that provides a green light for us to go ahead with the project. But before even the project charter is created, there are different discussions always happen, that why are we doing this project? What is the need? What will be the benefits out of it? Who will benefit from this project? And all these discussions are done before the project charter is created. And these documents are really important, and these documents are known as business documents. Next, we come to agreements. Agreements are contracts between buyer and seller for major deliverables. The next is a verified deliverables. So, verified deliverables are again the deliverables that are complete and that are accepted by the stakeholders because they have all the quality and criteria that is there in the project charter.
I wanted to explain to you in a little detail what defining a project scope means and what does it include, basically, because it's an important area. Scope includes number one, customer requirements. It might be dates, or it might be quality criteria, performance specifications, design. The second thing is statement of work. This defines major tasks. The third thing is the deliverables. It should mention what the deliverables would be. For major tasks, I think some of you might have a question, how can we define the major task? Say that we are developing a software. So our major task would be to get a UX design approval from the stakeholder, print maybe 100 or 1000 pamphlets to distribute. So this would be the major task that can be defined in the statement of work. So the third one is the deliverable. We have to be clear when we define the scope that what our deliverable would be. Is it a software? Is it some documentation? It could be anything. The fourth is the acceptance criteria. If we create a deliverable, say that we create a deliverable, but the customer or the stakeholder later on says that okay, he won't accept it. So that would be a loss of money and time, etc. So it should be established so that the end product or the deliverable is accepted by the stakeholder or the customer. Okay, it should be established. Work breakdown structure. So what is basically a work breakdown structure? It's a hierarchical format which breaks down bigger tasks. there should be 5 items or 5 requirements basically when we define the scope. If you're liking the video till now, give me a thumbs up, and if you don't like it, give me a thumbs down.
Now, I know that this seems like a lot, but this will just get over really quickly.
So tools and techniques are a lot easier than inputs and outputs. So you will be able to learn about it, or you will be able to get through this section really easily. Let's go.
First one is expert judgment. We get judgments from the expert. Data analysis, again, we have a lot of data and we analyze it using Excel, using root cause analysis, SWOT analysis. Also meetings, because we get in touch with the team members to understand the progress. Then we have data gathering. We can call people, take interviews, create checklists, brainstorm. Then there is decision making, autocratic decision. You can just make a decision. If you want multiple criteria voting, you can choose any one depending upon the situation. Next one is data representation. Again, that we use different kinds of diagram to represent the data so that we can understand what's going on. Interpersonal and team skills are useful when there is a discussion with the team to update and communicate the project performance. Context diagram represents business system, team interaction, input collection, output, and stakeholder. Prototypes, this is an interesting thing. It's a model, design, or a storyboard. Say that we don't have the finished product, but we create a model and we get an approval from the stakeholder. Then we have product analysis. Product analysis describes the use, characteristics, and other relevant aspects of what is to be delivered. Inspection is again examining or validating the deliverables to make sure that they meet the acceptance criteria. Decomposition is dividing or subdividing the project scope into small deliverables, which is more manageable for us.
Let's take a deep breath because we have one more section to go.
First output that we get is scope management plan, and we get it from plan scope management. The scope management plan describes how the scope of work will be managed, controlled, monitored during a project. It also lays down process for preparing project scope statement, creating a WBS, approval and maintenance of scope baseline, and formal acceptance of project deliverables. The second output that we get is requirements management plan. Pay attention here. It's how the product requirement will be initiated, planned, then documented, analyzed, tracked, managed, reported, and approved. So basically, it's the whole product life cycle. Requirement management plan also prioritizes requirements. It also describes what metrics will be used and what are the rationale for using them. It provides traceability structure that provides requirement attributes. So what is a traceability structure? Traceability structure is like once we have a requirement, we need to follow that requirement till it is delivered. What traceability does is that it provides a relation between the requirements and the product. Now, requirement documentation, it captures the requirements related to business, stakeholders, project, quality, transition, and readiness. Next is requirement traceability matrix. It links the product requirements to the deliverables that satisfy them. It also tracks the requirements in the project life cycle and ensures that requirements get delivered. It provides a structure for incorporating changes into project scope. Attribute or the key info or key characteristic associated with each requirement can be recorded. Where? In the requirement traceability matrix. Where do we get requirement traceability matrix? Where we collect requirements. So what are the two outputs of collect requirements? Requirements traceability matrix and requirements documentation. Find scope step gives us the project scope statement and project documentation updates. Let's see what project scope statement contains. It contains a description of product and project scope. It describes the deliverables in details, provides assumptions and constraints, and it also describes what is out of scope to reduce some scope creep. Scope creep is unnecessarily addition to the scope that has not been agreed. So project scope statements again provides a common knowledge to all the stakeholders and they understand what needs to be done. It also enables the project team to perform more detailed planning. It also guides the project team's work. It will also provide a baseline for evaluating requests for change and additional work if within or outside the project. For control scope, we have project management plan updates and project documents updates. Okay, so this would be project management plan updates. Since we already have a project management plan, when we try to manage scope, a lot of things becomes clear and then we can go back and update all those plans. When the planning is done, it doesn't take into account the real picture. We only get the real picture when the project is being executed. And when the project is being executed and we are trying to control and monitor everything, we find that, okay, this has been missed here, or this should be added here, or this should be taken off from the list. So that always happens. And this leads to updating of the project management plan. Next is project document update. So just like we update the plan, we will also update the documents. What are the documents? Assumption logs, requirement document, requirement traceability matrix, stakeholder registers, lesson learned register. Validating scope will be done by the stakeholder or the customer. When we validate the scope, what output do we get? We get the accepted deliverables, we get the work performance information, like what work has been performed, we get the change requests and the project document updates. So we already dealt with project documents updates. So let's deal with the other three. First one is the accepted deliverables, but I'll deal with work performance information. Work performance information provides information about project progress, which deliverables are accepted, which deliverables are not accepted, and why. So we get all these three information from work performance information. What are accepted deliverables? Accepted deliverables are the approved product. Who approves it? Again, the customer approves it if they see that everything is as per the criteria already defined. I already dealt with work performance information. Let's deal with the change request. The change request is sometimes when we create deliverables. If I am in a manufacturing plant which produces chocolates, say that 90 out of 100 chocolates are packaged well, but for the other 10, the packaging is not as per the quality standard. Those chocolates won't be accepted by our customer. The project team needs to document that. They need to document which of the deliverables have not been accepted and why it has not been accepted. Then to rectify that, again, a change is requested through the integrated change control project. I will ask the manufacturing team that, okay, you need to redo these 10 chocolate packaging. Whatever is to be done, it is supposed to go through the formal change control process. What WBS does is it breaks down a bigger task into smaller tasks. Once we have created the WBS, we are more clear of what the scope is, and that is the scope baseline. Customers or the stakeholders, whatever you call them, they will look into the scope statement and approve it. This baseline will help us to gauge our performance. This is a baseline that we will reference.
I hope that you guys enjoyed the session. If you have any comments or any questions, please leave them down below in the comment section. Also, if you have any suggestion regarding something that you want to see, you can also leave me a comment about that, or you could send me an email as well. My email is mentioned in the description box. In the next video, I will be discussing more about project management only. So I hope that you guys are gearing up and preparing well for the exam, and you're also revising based on my lectures. This will help both of us to get through the exam and get through this COVID thing together. See you until next time. Bye.